Hello, dear ones. Father Peter John coming to you from All Saints Orthodox Church in Bloomington, Indiana. Christ is in our midst. Today I want to ask the simple question, what is the big deal about the raising of Lazarus? What is it about the raising of Lazarus that caused people to go out to meet Jesus on the path from Bethany to Jerusalem, to bring palm branches and lay them at his feet and wave them in the air, to lay down their clothing and to cry out, Hosanna in the highest, blessed is he that comes in the name of the Lord? What is it about the raising of Lazarus that was such a huge deal that caused the Jewish authorities to begin to look for ways to have Jesus killed, right? This was a lightning rod event. So the question is, what was the big deal? Well, let's talk about that for a minute. So, in the Old Testament, the idea of human beings raised from the dead by saints or prophets or things, it wasn't unheard of. Elisha raised a child from the dead, a boy. Elijah also raised a child from the dead. And there was the case when Elisha's bones were in the grave, and there was a scenario where a body was dumped on top of his bones as the pallbearers were, hiding from robbers. And when the dead body hit Elisha's bones, then the man came to life again, right? So those are three Old Testament examples of resurrection, someone being raised from the dead by coming into contact in both cases, in all three cases actually, with a prophet or with a prophet's relics. So in the New Testament, we see Jesus, he raises the dead twice prior to Lazarus. He raises the widow of Nain, is her son, not her. He raises the son of the widow of Nain, and he raises Jairus' daughter from the dead. Now, both of those had been dead only a short time, right? So the widow of Nain was in procession to the burial of her son, so it would have probably been only the second or perhaps the third day after his death. And then with Jairus' daughter, she had just, passed away a few hours prior. So both of those cases, it was a big deal, much like Elisha and Elijah had raised the dead, people who had just recently died. So also Jesus, like a prophet, who he was, held as a prophet in the eyes of many, he also could raise those who had not been long dead. He did it a couple of times. But then we come to Lazarus. And Jesus, when he hears that Lazarus is sick, he intentionally stays where he is. He stays there on purpose. We're told on purpose. And it's going to be for the glory of God. That's what he says. And so what happens then is Jesus waits where he is so long that by the time he gets to the place where Lazarus has already been dead 4 days. Now, the temperature right now in that area, this weekend, the temperature there will be almost 90 degrees. So, it's the same time of year that Lazarus died and was raised. It's springtime. And it can be quite warm there this time of year. And so there are a couple of things going on here. One is that by the fourth day, in that kind of heat, Lazarus' body will have begun to rot. It's even referred to by Lazarus' sister. It's going to stink because his body will have begun to rot in 4 days in this kind of heat. The second thing is that in Jewish tradition, the soul would hang around the body for 3 days. It didn't go to the place of death until after that. And so the reason Jesus intentionally waits is because he is going to be the first person ever to raise someone from the dead, calling back their soul from Hades, from the place of the dead. Not that Lazarus' soul was just, around his body and there could be this simple resurrection. No, this type of resurrection could only be done by the Son of God, by God himself. And so that's why the hymns of this feast, talk about how this gives us assurance of the general resurrection. In other words, we can all be raised. Some people say, well, how can God gather up the dust of the earth and bring back our sinews together and all of these things? Well, Lazarus, who had begun to rot, his soul is called back from the place of death. His flesh is restored by Christ, and he comes forth from the tomb and is raised from the dead by Jesus. And so many people who witnessed this knew that this was an unexplainable, unprecedented miracle. And so they began to believe in Jesus as the Christ. And that is why they were waving their palm branches and laying their clothing down and crying out, Hosanna in the highest. And that is why the Jewish authorities, who did not like Jesus, sought to kill him. So let us enter the feast together and prepare ourselves for this holiest of weeks. Christ is in our midst. He is and ever shall be.